All right. Hello, everyone. I want to say hello to everyone who's out there in YouTube land. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. I truly appreciate it. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up on your way in. Make sure that you hit the like button so that we can acknowledge you, say hello so we can acknowledge you, all that kind of good stuff. I am here today with a special guest. His name is Aaron Emory. Thank you so much for joining the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Your fiance is in the building here. She's saying
Hey,
hello and hello to her handsome fiance. So,
hey,
and hello to you, NW. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Anyone else who's in the building, make sure you hit the like button and just say hello so we can acknowledge you. I want to give you a chance. Rhonda, you changed your profile picture. What's up with that? Hello to you, Rhonda. Thank you so much. Um, and make sure everyone hits the like button on their way in. And I want to give you a chance, Brother Emory, to say hello to the people. And if you would, just take a moment just to introduce yourself.
absolutely. So my name's Aaron Emory. I am from the Hamden area. That's where I grew up. Hamden, later on in life, New Haven. So I'm local to the area here. I am 46 years old. I am newly engaged, which is super exciting. I'm a father of four, and I lost my eyesight in 2019. I lost my eyesight 12 days after my 40th birthday due to a tragic car accident in New Haven. Um, Not by my fault, but I was a participant in it. I was driving when it happened, and that led me on to a new road, a new choice of career paths and ideas, and just understanding the inner strength that we have as individuals that we don't really realize we have until your back's against the wall.
Man, that's a powerful way to put that. You don't know the strength that we have until your back is against the wall. Thank you for acknowledging that and saying that.
Mhm.
Um, can you take us through what you were dealing with when the doctors told you that you'd never see again? Can you explain that to us?
So that's a funny story. So a little bit of the background in my situation. I so when I arrived at the hospital, so the accident happened. I ended up someone cut me off on the road. I ended up T-boning them, but my car went off and hit an embankment after it hit their car, which led me to hit my face in the windshield or against the windshield. And due to the simple fact that I wasn't wearing the seatbelt like I should have. Um, so everyone keep that in mind that's watching. Always wear your seatbelt, very important. And so I was put into an induced coma for 30 days. Then when I came out of the coma, I wasn't able to talk right away, and I was heavily medicated. But they had a trach in my throat, and so I couldn't talk. So some of the stuff early on, I don't really remember all that well, but I get the stories from people, and and everyone sort of filled me in on the hazy areas. But I want to say it was like two Christmases ago. I was talking to my son Justin, and I told him that I said I honestly don't even remember the day that the doctor told me that I was never going to see again, that I was blind, and it just so happens that my ex-wife was like an earshot away from the conversation, and she was like, "You don't remember that?" And I said, "No." And she was like, "Oh, I remember it." And she's like, he definitely told you. And like you immediately broke down and started crying. I don't remember it. But I take her word for it. So to the question you asked me, um, it's hard for me to give a real solid answer for it, I guess, because I don't even remember that moment that happened. So I could attest to the moment that when I did realize it, like when it settled. But as far as in the moment that someone said, "Hey, you'll never see again," that part I couldn't say because I don't remember it. And I just know that once I did realize what was going on and I realized that I couldn't see, um, at that point, I made a choice. And, I've been saying this ever since. I had two decisions to make, or two choices, better yet. And one was to lay down and die. And the other choice was to stand up and fight. And I chose to stand up and fight in that moment.
That's a powerful statement too. Why did you choose to stand up and fight? I mean, what was the motivation behind that?
Well, so my life before the accident, I, was running a moving company that I started from the ground up. Um, I was going to auctions and I was buying and selling cars, and I was also a part of a networking company as well. So I was always like a chaser. I was always a go-getter. I always had the drive and the ability to get things done, and I wasn't afraid of working hard. But the reality of the situation is I had a lot going on. And on top of that, I still had four children, which I'm very active in their lives. And, so I was spread like super thin. But the drive for me was when I came home, there were a couple things. When I came home, for one, I told my mother when I was getting ready to leave the hospital, make sure that you let everybody know that no one's going to treat me like I have a disability. Like, so if people intend on treating me like that, then you could tell them just to stay away, because I didn't want to be looked at like that. And I knew I was bigger than that. And on top of that, I had four kids to show that once you get knocked down, you get back up no matter what. And what type of an example would I have been for my children, even my friends, my family, those that are closest to me, if I just chose to sit there and become a vegetable and just, act like life wasn't gonna continue. So that was the driving force behind it, really, just to, set the tone for my kids and just the people around me, just to show them, that there's a level of inner strength that we all have. We just got to find it.
So a few years back, around a little bit before your tragic accident, I actually underwent a triple bypass, and I was extremely depressed after that,
Mhm.
which I had come to learn was not uncommon for people.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to go to therapy. Did you have to do any type of therapeutic work in order to kind of regain any inner strength?
I'm currently in therapy now. Um, in the very beginning, no, I the only therapy I did in the very beginning is like physical therapy, but not any like mental therapy. So it took me probably maybe like 3.5 years or so to decide that I wanted to talk to a therapist. And I spoke with this lady, very nice lady, but we weren't the right fit, which I realized uh, probably about 7 sessions in. I realized that we weren't the right fit, and I stopped going to her. But the one thing I do thank her for was, the very first time I sat down with her, you know, um, we did an initial greeting, and she asked me, I feel like it was one of the first like questions after the initial greeting. She asked me, um, like, how do I feel? And I really didn't have an answer for her because I was so focused on how everybody else felt that I never took time to think about my own feelings. I wanted to make sure that, I looked as strong as I could, or I made it seem like I was as strong as I could so that other people weren't affected when I never really addressed my own feelings in that moment. So that was a very valid question she asked me, and it was an eye opener, which actually led me to then think about it and realize, like, wow, I probably should take some time to really, think about how I actually feel versus how everyone around me feels about me. So therapy now, I'm with a therapist now, and my therapist now is absolutely amazing, and we are unlocking so many doors, which is a beautiful thing. I absolutely love going to therapy, and there's a staple behind it, and people think that if you go to therapy you have something wrong with you or whatever the case may be. But you know what, if that's the mentality that you have, then that's the reason you need to be in therapy, because there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. We all have something wrong with us. We can all work out something, even if it's childhood trauma.
So you're you're delving into therapy, and the therapist asking you how you felt. That was very manly of you in your response. Here's what I mean by that, right? So many times men, as you are, we're so used to taking care of everyone else. You had 4
Hmm.
kids, started running a successful moving company, being an entrepreneur in other areas, looking to do other things. So you're looking to take care of everyone else, but
Hmm.
oftentimes we forget to take care of ourselves. And I can identify with that because the therapist told me the same thing. He said, you're so used to taking care of everyone else. Again, I was a police officer, and so now I had this thing happen to me, and now you don't feel that way anymore. So has any of that been unlocked where you are able to say, I need to take care of myself a little bit more? It's okay to take care of everyone else, but now it's time to be just a little bit more selfish and take care of yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was just sharing with Lindsay yesterday that one of the things that I'm discovering is that I'm better at managing other people's feelings than I am at managing my own. And it resonates because it's true. I'm so concerned with everyone else all the time, but this is what we're trying to work towards right now. We're trying to work towards me putting me first. It's almost like the concept, like, when you're on a plane and they say when the mask drops,
Mm.
put the mask on you first and then put it on the person that you're trying to help. Same type of thing. The better I can be for myself, the better I can be for everyone else. So it is something that I'm trying to work on, putting me first and acknowledging my feelings instead of tucking them in my back pocket all the time, and bringing them to the forefront, and just having discussions about these things.
There's somebody, a person named Riss, Riss, Riss.
Yes.
Okay. Are they supposed to be joining, or what's up with that?
I don't know. That's who set up the computer. I'm assuming that's Marissa. I'm assuming you're talking about.
Okay, she doesn't have a picture. Do you want her to come up? I didn't expect that. She's
Oh, she can come in. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming.
is she in building with
No,
you?
no, she's gone now. She's gone.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, let me just bring her up for a second here.
Okay.
Hello, Riss.
Hello.
No,
Hi,
there
did
she
you
is.
want to come up?
No, I was just trying to join, like, listen to the podcast. But isn't
Okay,
it
okay.
live?
Yeah, we're
I
live right
think they're
now.
taping for later.
So
Am I on the
what?
wrong site?
Yeah, yeah, you got to go to YouTube. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right. Very good. So how tell us about your family. You had kids, your ex was there when you're telling people when you start to recover some memories.
Yep.
How were they dealing with this new you?
So well, my family, my direct family, like my children and the people that are tech connected to me. I come from a large family. There's 8 boys and 4 girls in my family. So I come from a large family, and my family is a mixed blended family, right? Um, so I um had a lot of people in and out, of the hospital and things like that. Sometimes it even felt like we were having a party. Um, you know, my kids took it hard. Um, all right. Um, my kids took it hard. It's hard for me to talk about my kids. They took it hard. Um, my youngest at that point, which is now 8, she was 2 at that point. She didn't really understand what was going on. So that was that for her. This was 4 days after I'm sorry, 4 days before my oldest was graduating high school, which would have been well, he was my first graduating child from high school. So that was rough that I didn't get to go to his graduation because obviously I was in the hospital, and that was rough on him. My son Justin, um, who you probably know from the Blender Bar, um, he took it pretty hard, but he also chose the route of dealing with it by keeping distance. Um, and then my daughter London, who is now 16, she was 10 then. Um, she wasn't allowed to see me because of her age. They kept her like restricted because of her age. So I know that she took it hard too. But Lindsay and Allison and Stacy um, all did a really great job of banding together and holding down the fort collectively. They all like did what they needed to do to make sure that the kids were good, and to make it the easiest transition into this tragedy as possible.
Did they need therapy? Did they have to go to therapy?
Listen, they were all in therapy before this happened. No, I'm
Okay.
only playing. I'm only playing. I don't know. I'm only playing. No, what you call? I don't know. I can say that I know that Lindsay does therapy and Allison does therapy. Um, not Stacy, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something that comes up in their therapy sessions or anything like that. I'm not sure. I know my daughter ended up doing some therapy. Um, when she got a little older. But once again, I'm not sure if that was the topic of the therapy or not because I never asked whatever. It's her therapy, so I let it be private to her. Um, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know that definitely affected a lot of people. My mom, my brothers, my cousin Jerry was really like, affected by this big time. I mean, friends, just it was something to see somebody who always, has a smile on their face and is always full of joy, down and out, and not like themselves. And, you know, I know it had to be rough on people.
People just generally, as you know, have good days and bad days in their life. How do you deal with the good with the bad days? I mean, tell us about whatever motivations, internal drives that you have to keep going, to keep pressing through.
I would love to say that my bad days are different than anyone else's, but they're not. They're the same as they were before I lost my sight. Now, could I find my way around the bad day easier now? Absolutely, because things could be a little more frustrating. Something simple task can be frustrating at times. One of the things I can't stand doing is making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's one of the simplest things to do, but at the same time, it's one of the hardest things to do when you can't see. And if
Mm,
anyone wants to test out the theory, put a blindfold on and go make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And you'll see that there's going to be more peanut butter and jelly on your counter, on your plate, and on your hands than it is on the bread
mm,
until you get the hang of it, right? It was just a matter of learning. It was just a different learning curve. And I had to take in consideration, I needed to be more patient because the things that, I used to be able to do in, you know, 2 minutes, it might take me 10 minutes now, you know. So it can be frustrating, but I wouldn't label it as my bad days got worse. I just still have bad days, just like I did before. That's how I honestly look at it. And I think that could be the way that I choose to deal with it. And that's what settles me, by not putting a stamp on it of any kind, you know. But, I did have some rougher days coming home from the hospital. When I came home from the hospital after being in the hospital for 3 months, um, I came home after like a week and a half. I was so excited to get back into my bed and my nice, comfortable bed that I found was no longer comfortable. Um, and I also ended up with frozen shoulder in both my shoulders. So I literally, at one point, I could raise my hands this high. I couldn't raise my hands this high, and that took therapy and time and massages and, patience and everything else under the sun, to get to the point where, you know, I was able to fully extend my arms again up over my head. But that was very frustrating. The surgeries, you talked about depression earlier, and there was one point where I had a surgery done where they did reconstruction surgery on my face, and then they also did reconstruction surgery on my mouth because from hitting the windshield, it split my gums in the middle, and there was a gap. I used to have a hairline gap in between my teeth. It's bigger than it is now. That now it's bigger than what it was, but when I came home, it was bigger than what it is right now. It was like the size of like a tooth missing. My daughter would always be like, "Daddy, what happened to your tooth? Why are you missing a tooth?" So they were able to shrink that down, but in the process of doing that, they had to pretty much shut my mouth. So I had 8 screws in my mouth, metal in my mouth. I couldn't really chew or anything like that because I couldn't open my mouth all the way up. I was eating out of syringes. Everything was mashed, and after a while, of eating mashed potatoes and drinking juice and pudding, every day, that was the first time I think in my life that I had a state of depression. But the
mm.
good thing about it was that when I realized it, I literally said it out loud. I was like, like, you're depressed. And when I said it out loud and I realized it, I was able to wipe it away. I had to acknowledge it,
Mm.
realize what was going on, and then I was able to push through and just go past it.
Do you think for a long time a lot of people kind of refuse to acknowledge their depression?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Um, how many surgeries did you have in total? Do you know?
Um Without me, that ones that I can tell you about. I can't, speak for anything that happened before I was like sort of back, like, with it. Um, so I know I had the emergency surgery once I got to the hospital because there were like bone shards like in my like brain. So they had to, do an emergency surgery. I know that. So I will label that as number one.
Mm.
Um, I had two reconstructive surgeries. And then when they did one of the surgeries, I ended up going to rehab um, to build up my strength. And then I had to go back to Yale because there was a leak. There was, I don't remember the exact terminology, but there was a leak that was yeah, I thought it came to me. It didn't. But there was a leak that was happening, and it was dripping from like a hole in my head, and it was coming out of my nose. So it seemed like I had a runny nose, but it wasn't that. It was a fluid that was leaking, and so they had to do another surgery where they took fat from my stomach, opened me up, and then plugged the hole with the fat from my stomach. And then that one worked there. And then when I came home, I had to reschedule for another reconstruction surgery. Um, so I would say probably between 4 and 5 uh, that I could remember.
Um, how long do you said that, how long did it take you to get back to where you started remembering everything? A couple of months, like a year or two? How long?
No, no, no. That was it was pretty much I feel like once I was able to talk again, um, everything was back. Like the day I remember talking is the day I remember everything being there. I never lost my memory. I remember everything. I remember everything from when I was a child and everything else under the sun. I remember everything. I take pride in my memory. The thing was during that process, I was on so many pills. When I came home, I think if I want to say I was on like 21 pills when I came home.
Hmm.
So I was on all these pills and, hooked up to IV here and this, that, and, getting shots here and there. And so I think in the process of just my brain recovering from the initial shock of everything and all the swelling going down and all of those things, I think that those are the parts that people sort of filled me in on. I think I was foggy for, a solid, I was probably foggy for like probably a solid like 45 days, and I want to say just about 30 of those days I was in a coma, but I had to like use a walker, which I don't remember. I'm just giving you a story that was told to me. I had to use a walker for balance and things like that. To sort of get back to walking, and I was using a whiteboard when I couldn't talk to write down things, and as I remember, I feel like the first thing I wrote on that whiteboard was like Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and I didn't get it. They couldn't get me coffee. But I know that even with the whiteboard, I got frustrated, and I want to say that I threw the whiteboard, because I was just frustrated that they weren't understanding me. And also, like, why am I writing on this whiteboard and I can't see what I'm doing? So I think it was a mixed frustration. But when I was in the hospital, though, I had, my memory back and everything. It was just a small period of time that was a little hazy for me, going through the motions.
Let's talk about what you do today and how your life is today. We talked to just briefly before you got on. You were running a moving company, but you're kind of thinking about phasing that out. Tell us about how life is today.
Yep. So I started Up and Down Movers in 2010. When the accident happened in 2019, I ended up taking on two partners. I actually was closing the business down. I went to my office, packed it up pretty much, and started bringing stuff back to my house to clear out the office. When I was convinced by these two other gentlemen that had moving companies to sort of merge with them, I did that. Um, and within the first year we lost one of the partners, and then by year four lost the other partner, and just realized that I really can't. It was something that the workforce right now is shot. It's hard to find good workers, it's hard to find consistent workers, or people who just have good values, or a work ethic. Um, so that led me to pretty much just dissolving the company and just leaving that alone. Once I lost the ability to throw the cape on and go save the day when things go wrong, that really took away a security that I had. Um, and so instead of stressing myself out, because it's stressful, it was 15 years of stress, you know, good reward to a degree. Um, it definitely helped me change my life and my lifestyle for me, my children, and anyone involved in my life at that point. Um, but now I'm going into another route, which was kind of weird for me to do because at the age of 40, I never thought about designing any type of clothing, but I lose my sight, and all of a sudden now I want to do everything that, you know, requires sight, you know. And so it's funny how, I started Boogie Fitness. So Boogie Fitness LLC is a athletic apparel clothing line, which I'm actually in the process of right now as we speak, trying to secure some manufacturing space to do everything. Instead of sending things out and doing it third party, I could do everything in house. So it's just another skill set that I'm learning, and I'm trying to understand. But I, believe that this was brought to me by the grace of God, and I'm taking a walk on faith, and I'm stepping out on my faith, and I'm trying it. I believe that God gave this idea to me for a reason, and I don't want to just, squander away, my blessings. I'm not trying to block them, you know. So I got involved with that, and I also got involved. I love to sing, um, and I love karaoke. So I started a karaoke company, karaoke slash DJing company called Mic Drop Entertainment. And I'm still trying to get that off the ground as well. But had some events and things like that, and some bookings, and it's not on the back burner, but it's still out there for the world to see, and it's still out there for anybody to reach out that needs the any form of entertainment done. So I'm still hustling, and I'm still striving, and I'm still setting an example, not just for my kids, but it turns out that I am a positive example for a lot of people. I've always believed that I was a positive example, but I think that it means a little bit more to people when they see the things that I'm doing under the conditions that I'm doing them.
Brother, that's a lot, man. I want to say thank you to Groove Globally for the $10. I appreciate it. He says, thank you, gentlemen. Very nice discussion. And
Thank you.
Rhonda is asking a question.
Yes.
Again, thank you so much, Grooving Globally. Excuse me, not Rhonda. High Vibe is asking a question. What mechanisms do you use to compensate for your loss of vision? Do you use Braille? Do you use audio? How do you navigate the world?
So I actually uniquely have on um, a pair of shades right now that I'm wearing. These are the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. And they have built-in AI. So I could talk to them about anything, just like any other AI.
Oh, wow.
You know, and they also take pictures and videos. I can text from them, so I can do everything hands free, pretty much. Or it has a button. You can use the button if you want, but you can do everything hands free. And so I can talk to them hands free. I can answer my phone hands free. I can send text messages, listen to text messages, take pictures of things to say like, "Hey, what's that in front of me?" Or "Hey." I can hold out a book and say, read this page, or whatever the case may be. So it creates independence. I cook. So when I'm looking at seasonings, I just hold the seasoning up and I say, hey, Meta, read what's in front of me. Or, hey, Meta, read what's in my hand. And then it's going to tell me like what the season is, what the box of pasta is, whatever the case may be. It's going to read it to me and let me know what's going on. So it helps tremendously when it comes to independence, because now I don't have to ask somebody. I don't have to say, hey, can you take out the adobo for me? Which one's the salt? Which one's the pepper? And I eliminate, those types of questions. So Braille for me is a no. I've never learned it. I feel like Braille, which could be kind of ignorant of me, I feel like Braille is definitely a thing of the past because technology is so present. Um, but between my glasses and my phone, there's all types of apps you can use on the phone that you can take a picture of something and it'll tell you what it is, or scan a room and it'll tell you what's in the room. So technology has been my friend. And then you use the technology to get you a step further, but a lot of it has to do with the muscle memory that I have. I enjoyed cooking before I lost my sight, so it's nothing for me to get into the kitchen and cook. I just had to refamiliarize myself with the touch of things. You realize that so many things have a touch that you never even pay attention to. But if you close your eyes and you grab the Heinz ketchup bottle, you would know it was a Heinz ketchup bottle because it's so familiar to you. You just don't know that you would know it blindfolded unless you had to do it. But I could tell the difference between a Pepsi and a Coke, a Dasani and a Aquafina. Just from holding it, I could tell a difference from it. Just like if you put two cups in front of me, one's water and one's soda, I could tell you which is which because they weigh different, which might not make any sense, but these are the devices that I use to figure things out.
Now so they often say that people who lose their sight do develop these different ways to compensate, and that's exactly what you're describing. Is you can
Yes.
tell the difference between the weight of a bottle of Coke and a bottle of water.
If you're in a restaurant and they put it in the cups and they put two cups on the table, I could tell you which one is which. They weigh different.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm glad that you said what you said though, because I thought you were going with the grand old cliche. They say when you lose one sense, another one gets stronger. And I'm glad you didn't say that because
Okay.
that's not true. What
Okay.
you do, but what you said was spot on. You find other ways to compensate, and that is true. That's 100% true.
Okay. Lindsay says you're a great cook and that she's gonna make dinner tomorrow. No, she didn't say that. She said
She probably will.
she said that you should make dinner tomorrow. You should make dinner.
She probably did say that. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
So I was definitely going to ask who's a better cook, you or Lindsay.
It depends on what you're in the mood for.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to
Okay.
eat clean, let Lindsay do it. If you want a little bit of butter in there and some pasta or something like that, some mac and cheese, then you let me do it.
Well, how do y'all navigate that? Because she's trying to do the clean living thing, and you're adding butter to
I don't. Well, the thing is, so I don't really cook for Lindsay. unless it's something like mutual, like, like I'll do like the other day I was gonna do shrimp, like grilled shrimp with pasta, spinach, roasted red pepper, something like that with like a lemon butter garlic sauce. Like she'll eat that, so I can get away with something like that. But she's not gonna eat like the mac and cheese and like, if I'm doing like, I don't even really do like fried chicken like that, but she won't eat like a soul food meal though. She's not gonna eat anything like that. Like
Oh
she'll
man,
pick at it, but
listen,
she
there's
won't.
vegan soul food spots now, man. Just
There
vegan
is, there
soul.
is. And she actually likes one of them. She likes one of
Yeah,
them. I don't know the name of it, but she likes one of them. Yep.
yeah. There's a few of them around here. So,
Yep. Yep.
um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And matter of fact, there was one I used to go to in Hartford. It was a what's in it? It was a vegan Caribbean spot. Great food, man. Great
I
food.
bet. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be opposed to trying something like that. I don't shoot down everything.
Mm.
I'm not afraid to try new things. I just, I've tried enough new things to know the ones I don't like. But yeah, I wouldn't be she told me about a place that she really liked and they had like a really good mac and cheese, she said.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, they're doing some stuff. There's spots in Bridgeport, New Haven,
Yeah.
Hartford. This is all Connecticut stuff for all you people out there. Uh, I want to ask about your glasses. Did the government help with monetary support with that, and how does that go? No.
No, no. So there are programs out there. Um, this MacBook that I'm talking to you on right now, was given to me. I didn't pay a dime for it. It was given to me from an association called Bedsby. Bedsby also it's like an association. Excuse me. It's an association for the blind. Um, and the really cool thing about it though is that like 70, I think the number is like 70% of the individuals that are part of this program that work there are blind. So, I admired that because I don't really want a sighted person telling me how to live blind. You know what I'm saying? It's different. Like, you can't, because a sighted person, you always have a safety net. You could close your eyes and walk around my house all you want, but as soon as you get nervous, you can open up your eyes. I don't have that option. Someone who's blind or visually impaired to a certain degree doesn't have that option. Once the lights are off, the lights are off. So I don't want someone who can open their eyes to be the one to try and tell me how to live my life blind because you don't experience what I experience, you know. And I get people all the time that are like, oh, I was in the shower and I closed my eyes and took a shower. You know what? That's cool. I appreciate it. Like to try and get a taste of my experience. But that's the equivalent, almost the same equivalency of saying I was in the bed and I was going to sleep and I closed my eyes. You know what I'm saying? Because the shower is an extremely safe place, if you ask me. I mean, there's not too much that's going to happen to someone in the shower. You're standing, right? It's not like the sky's going to fall down on you or you're navigating anything. Your body, and so taking a shower is easy breezy. Like, so although I do appreciate people trying to step into my shoes sometimes, and not just my shoes, the shoes of anyone who's in this situation. It really takes for someone who lives the life like you for it to resonate. I feel like, and the people that have come to my home and have talked to me about these things, um, I would say 90% of them were blind. And I just feel like it just means more to me than someone who's sighted that is trying to understand how I live life.
Peer counseling. You talk about people come to your house. Is that Is that part of it? You're just maintaining strong connections with people who are in the same condition as you. Is that
It's
helpful?
more, it's more or less the individuals like, so on my stove, there's bump dots on my stove, so I can work my stove. So there's bump dots to identify, like, where the high is and where the low is, where the oven on is and the oven off, or like the temperatures and things like that. So there's bump dots on a lot of stuff in my house. On the Keurig, there's bump dots, so I can make my coffee. I can work the air fryer. I can work the microwave. So there's bump dots and stuff. So now the person that came and initially taught me about the bump dots um, was a blind individual. Um, and so what they do is they come in and they teach you life skills. They teach you how to use your cane. They teach you how to identify things. They teach you tricks. Like, when I was talking about earlier about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Well, you know, this guy, when I was telling him that's one of the hardest things to do, he said, you know what? Put the knife away and use a spoon. Use the backside of a spoon. He said, you'll find it's easier. So it's like tricks of the trade that they know, that they sort of give to you and get you on your way. Um, and so those are the individuals that come in from Bedsby. They're like life skill, like trainers, and they'll pretty much try and show you anything that you're interested in learning how to do, even programs for the computer, so you can work the computer, and things of that nature. Um, yeah, they pretty much cover anything. If you just have to request help, and then there's somebody that's designated in a section that will come out and help you, figure it out.
Besides the glasses that you mentioned, how is society in general at being acceptable, not acceptable, but being accommodating to those who are lost their sight? I mean, you talked about apps. We now have audio books that can be read to you. Have you
Mhm.
noticed that there's a lot of things that you can do probably that you couldn't do 15, 20 years ago if you had lost your
Absolutely.
sight? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I was saying the whole thing with Braille, like technology is so far advanced. My phone even has a thing for Braille. Like I can do a thing on my phone and it'll read Braille. Um, but as far as in people, I would give you a different understanding probably than Lindsay would. Um, because Lindsay thinks that, a lot of people are jerks when it comes to it, and they're not paying attention to the cane, or they're trying to like run past it or jump over it, and and things like that, instead of just being patient and like, showing understanding. I don't see that aspect of it, so it doesn't sting me really. um but I would say that, listen, I mean, I say it all the time. There's a couple perks and being blind. One of the perks, and I'm so honest about this, that one of the perks is that I never saw COVID. And COVID is going to be burned into everyone's brain that had to go to the store and see people with these crazy masks on. And I'm talking about early COVID, when people were just putting anything that could cover their face over their face. I never walked into a Walmart and saw a Walmart stripped of 75% of their stuff, or a grocery store or any of that stuff, or any of the things that were COVID related. I never visually saw them. Now I heard about them because it's on the news and you hear people talking about it, but I never visually saw it. Those were visions that people won't be able to get rid of, you know. And so also, traveling at the airport got a little bit better. I go to the airport and go right by everybody who is waiting in line. It could be 300 people waiting in line, and I get in a wheelchair and they wheel me right up to the TSA, and I put my stuff on the conveyor belt, and I'm back and I'm through in 15, 20 minutes, instead of hours. So I'll take that as a perk, and it's funny because we just got through. We went, me, Lindsay, and my daughter, my 8-year-old Lonnie. We went to Ashley's ice cream 2 nights ago, and we ordered the ice cream, and we went to pay, and the person at the register was like, "No, you're all set." And so Lindsay was like, "But we didn't pay." And she's like, "No, don't worry about it. You're all set." And we were just so confused. Like, and she was like, "Well, when we came in, the guy was looking at you, like, and he was like locked in on you." She's like, "I was just waiting for him to be like, 'Hey, Aaron, long time no see.' I don't know that guy, whatever the case may be." But, I said, "You think it was the power of the cane?" Guy joke about the power of the cane all the time. And, and she's like, "Maybe," but it was just random. Like, so I do feel like people are understanding. A lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody, because you know how the world is, but a lot of people are understanding. And I feel like the world has been fairly fair to me in that respect. And I've met some really cool people, really nice, genuine, cool people along the way. So that is another, thing that I could say, that where, I encourage people that are in my shoes, not even just my shoes. If anybody who's in a state of mind where they feel like they have a disability that hinders them from being into the world, you know, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. And I feel like I'm the representative for, the town of Hamden. I feel like I'm the blind mayor of Hamden. I'm everywhere, every day. I'm always out and about. People know me in the community. Like, nothing stops me. People know me in the gym. They know me at the telephone stores, at the Starbucks, at the Dunkin' Donuts, at the kickboxing place. Like, people know me around. Like, I'm always around. I don't stay home, and I'm not afraid of the world. And the world is big when you lose your sight. It's a huge world when you lose your sight. That expression, given a tic tac to a whale. That's how it feels every day. But you just have to keep on pushing, and you have to keep on figuring ways out to just create and find your independence, and just let the world know that you're there. Like, I'm a presence, like, in any room I go into, no matter what. When I had my sight and without my sight, I'm still a presence. And and that actually was one of the reasons behind me creating a children's book. I have 3 of them written right now, none of them published, but 3 of them written right now, and I'm working on illustrations for them. But my sister is a quadriplegic that has MS, but she's one of the most amazing people that you ever meet, and she lived by the rule, or the saying rather, "I can't doesn't live here." And that's what inspired my book. My book is about me and my sister, not literally about us, because it's a children's book. So it has a blind kid in it, who's 8 years old. His name is Max, but he has the shades, he has the white cane, and then it has a girl in it who's 8 years old, and her name is Ava, and she's in a wheelchair. And so what I did is I took my story, and not my story, my situation. And I took my sister's situation and I put it into a book. And the book is called "I Can't Doesn't Live Here." And it's just to motivate children and let them know that there's different people in the world, but we're all the same, no matter what. And so it's a powerful message. And it's been a really cool experience to do. So I'm super excited about that, and I can't wait to get into the next stages of it.
Man, that's really, really exciting, man. I'm glad to hear that. I'd
Yeah,
certainly
thank
like to
you.
have you back on when that's published and illustrations are done and all that.
Absolutely.
Um, just like two more questions here, then I'll let you go. I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everyone in the chat. The chat has been kind of going. I really, really appreciate it. They're listening to you. They're telling you that they love it. They love your motivation, everything that
Thank you
you're
so
doing.
much.
Yeah, the chat is full of all that type of stuff. So a lot of times these ladies want to hear about the relationships. Tell us what game you put on Lindsay to to lock her down. How did you do that, brother?
Well, you know, so we have been friends for 16 years, and you know, she's always been somebody near and dear to me, and we've always supported each other throughout whatever we've gone through, and it's been 16 years. I mean, 16 years is some time, and there's been spaces in between and all types of stuff in between the 16 years, you know. But at the end of the day, I am a very thoughtful individual. Um, and I put her first. And 95% of the things I do. Um, and she knows where my heart is, and I mean, it helps to have some really cool kids too, and they were super accepting of everything, and and they just embraced her. Um but yeah, you know what, at the end of the day, you know if you truly ask me, I'll say that my humor definitely, wins her over a lot. I keep a smile on her face, you know, and just the fact that she knows that I love her and that I'll protect her at all costs. I think that also does the trick. And I always have a trick up my sleeve for her. I always have a surprise. She never knows what's around the corner or what's gonna walk through the door at the blender bar, or whatever. So I keep her on her toes that way too, with surprises and things of that nature. And at the end of the day, I'm not a bad looking guy. So who would want to walk beside me, you know?
Well, yeah, you're right about that, brother. You're right about that. You know Lisa Heslin? You know Lisa Heslin?
Yes.
She says she's met your sister and she is a wonderful person, a wonderful woman. A
Yes.
Ron. Yeah,
Yes. Thank you,
yeah.
Lisa.
And Yoli's trying to get a hookup here. She's asking her, do you have a brother?
Listen, I have a whole bunch, as I said before. There's 8 of us.
All right. um, So I'm going to let you go here. Just give us the last words of encouragement. People are going through trials, tribulations. They're going through different things, whether it's physical ailments, mental impairments. They lost a job, they lost a child. All kind of
Yeah.
crazy stuff goes on every single day. We all know it. Give us some encouraging words to bounce back.
I just think that all things, for me, all things for me begin with faith in God and Jehovah, who is the most high in our lives. And so if you put him first and you start your day with him in mind, that will be the most positive structure you can choose to start your day off with. Um, Also, every day that we wake up is a new opportunity to change. And I truly live by that. You know, your tomorrow and your yesterday have nothing to do with your today. Today's today. You deal with the things of today, and you deal with the things of tomorrow. Once you start to blur those lines and you bring tomorrow into today and you bring yesterday into today, you have to think about all the chaos that you're bringing in. You're bringing in anxiety, which causes chaos. You could be bringing in doubt, you know, or I mean, you technically could you technically can be bringing in excitement too, but at the same time, it all causes chaos in some way or another. It's another form of distraction. So take your days as they come, and and just know that the best thing you can do is be a positive individual in society, and that's the way that we're going to build the society up, and we're going to remove racism, and we're going to remove a lot of the stress in our lives. And it's just it's a individual journey, but if we all take that individual journey and we make a pledge to be better people, then we'll make the world a better place.
I truly, truly appreciate that. Let me read some stuff to you here. Rhonda Payne says, thank you for sharing your experience with us, Mr. Emory.
Absolutely.
Let's see. High Vibe says, great message. Marissa Murto, I think that was Riss, that was there before. It says, Aaron is one of a kind. If the world had more Aaron Emerys in it, it would be a much better place. Nicole says, thank you for that great takeaway. Thank you,
so
to
much.
everyone. Thank you again to Groove and Globally for the $10. I really appreciate it. If anyone else wants to buy me lunch so I can go in there and help support Aaron and Lindsay, you can certainly, where's my thing out here? Where's that here? Yeah, if you want to buy me lunch. Let's see. What else do I have here? Well said. Lisa Heslin said, well said. So again, I thank everyone for the chat. I know it's 2:00, kind of a difficult time. If you watch this in the future, and just make sure you hit the like button. If you're in the Connecticut area, go by the Blended Bar in Cheshire to support Lindsay and Aaron.
Yes.
I really, really appreciate it. And you can also buy me some lunch as well, if you might see me in there. So I want to thank you again for coming on and sharing your story. I know it's not always tough. I know it's probably tough at times to kind of go back and rehash this, but I believe that your story really is an inspiration. You are definitely an inspiration to me. You're writing books. You're got a clothing line. You are still involved in your children's life, going to kickboxing, working out, eating right. Oh, you eat right when Lindsay's cooking, at least. So I can appreciate all that, brother. So you're definitely an encouragement. And as has been said many times in the chat, if you can do it, then we know that everyone else can do it too.
Absolutely.
So I want to leave you with that. So
absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right.
And thank you to everyone else.
All right, you guys, take care. I do have a show later on today at 7:30. Myself and V will be back to the relationship stuff. So we'll see you guys. Take care. Don't hang up, Aaron. Don't hang up.
Okay.
All right. Take care, guys. See you.